with a great and warm applause, Heather Wilde, please. There she is.
Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be here for my first DevOps days anywhere and my first time in Latvia. So this is a beautiful city, and I'm really happy to be here. And I wanted to present a very important topic here, a topic about burnout, which is something that I experienced myself as a CTO, and a lot of DevOps people encounter because we have something that I call the protector ego. And this is, we want to shield the company from the things that happen. So first, a little bit about me and where I come from. As was just said, I was an early employee of Evernote and Spirit Airlines. I'm a fractional CTO, so I'm the CTO for 6 different companies currently. I also am the advisory board chair of an engineering college in the United States. And I won a lot of awards. I just keep winning awards for different things I do. I spend a lot of time on the road, and I have a lot of experience with burnout. So I'm a classic workaholic. So I do know a lot about the topic that I am about to present. So I just want to start with a question. What's stress? Like, a lot of people, like, raise your hand if you know what stress is. That's pretty sad that we that we know stress. Well, so stress is a feeling of being under pressure. And the symptoms of this can include anger and anxiety, difficulty sleeping, loss of appetite, breathlessness, even chest pains. Like, stress is actually a medical condition that we feel as humans as a response to things. And it's the body's automatic response to any physical or mental demand that is placed on it. So we live in a stress-filled environment. Whether it's your job or at home or wherever, these things are there to make us cope with life's ordeals that come at us. We cannot avoid stress. It's impossible. Situations arise on a day-to-day basis that will cause stress to happen. And it doesn't matter whether we're at work or at play. Stress is going to affect us. Like, for example, it's the driving force that actually makes us who we are, makes us be better and do better things. But sometimes when, like, we have a bereavement or a divorce or something, then we have these traumas that will either push us to be our best selves or make us sit on the couch watching Netflix, being unable to move. These are the way that we respond to stress can define us as a person. The stress response is fight or flight. And this gives, like, I'm going to go medical for a second here. You get norepinephrine in your brain and epinephrine. And these comes from the internal cortex of your brain. They come out, and this is what increases the respiration rate. This increases the heart palpitations. This is why you start sweating and things like that in response to stress. And depending on how stressed you are, this kind of thing can, you go through the different phases of coping, and then eventually you get exhausted. So if you are living in constant stress, that will eventually lead to burnout. But some people constantly are living in that middle of that curve. They want that adrenaline high. They're drinking Red Bull all the time because they want that feeling of the heart racing, and it's a dopamine kind of surge. They like that euphoric feeling, which shows you that not all stress is bad. Did you know that? Yeah. So we got something called eustress, which is positive stress. This is what you get from exercise when you're actually putting your body under exertion on purpose. So if you are doing something to mentally challenge your brain, you're actually putting your body under stress for a good purpose. However, if you do this for too long, again, there's a performance curve that you drop off of at the end, and that leads to burnout. So when you end up with distress, which is the opposite of eustress, so you have negative stress. And the kinds of things that cause this are heavy workload, infrequent rest, long work hours, and hectic and routine tasks. And when that happens, you get demotivated. And your effectiveness at doing things is reduced. And you start to have physical, mental, and behavioral issues. So we're going to be talking about this type of thing, when you have distress in your body. So what are stressors that can cause distress? A lot of things, actually. Things like lack of control. So an inability to influence things in your job. Who here has that? If you're not a manager, or even if you are a manager and you feel like you can't influence the things, many people have that. If you have a dysfunctional workplace, many people end up with dysfunctional workplaces. If you have unclear job expectations, I know I end up with that almost all the time. Like dysfunctional workplace dynamics, a mismatch in values. If you're having a conversation with someone and it turns into a debate almost all the time, that's something that can cause stress. If you have a poor job fit, or extremes of activity, like if your job is monotonous and constantly doing something and it's not mentally stimulating to you, that is a difficult stressor. If you don't have social support, so if you're doing something and the people around you are constantly questioning why you're doing that, that is a stressor. And if you have a work-life imbalance, this is the number one thing where people, you're working constantly and you're never getting a break. You're not taking enough breaks, listening to yourself to work and take that time to rest. So too much stress can lead to burnout. And that's actually true of eustress as well. So it's not just distress. Too much stress can lead to burnout. Now, job burnout specifically is an extended period of time where someone experiences exhaustion and a lack of interest in things, resulting in a decline of their job performance. And this has to do a lot with experiencing chronic stress. So if you are constantly under stress, you're at the top of that curve all the time and you never give yourself a break, then you will burn out. Your body just needs the time to rest, and if you're not giving it that time, then your body has no choice but to take it from you. So what are the signs? You're tired all the time. No matter how much you sleep, it's not enough. If you are someone that needs the alarm to wake up every single day, and then you keep hitting the snooze alarm and keep hitting the snooze alarm and keep hitting the snooze alarm, that's a sign that you're not getting enough sleep. And that's one sign of you're heading towards burnout. Another, you don't want to do anything. Suddenly things that used to be interesting to you aren't. No matter what anyone suggests, you just don't want to do it. You're not motivated towards anything, whether that's at work or at home. That's a sign that something is starting to be wrong. Now, many of us as engineers already are disillusioned cynics. But if you start to be even more of one, that's a sign. And this is important. Like, if you have a brain fog, like your brain, you can't concentrate on things, especially things that used to come really simple. Like if you're standing there and you just can't think, this is where your work performance starts to go down, because if you can't even do like a simple hello world at work, then something might be a problem. Our bodies and our brains are designed to handle short bursts of stress, not long term. So our brain starts to compensate for this by shutting itself down. And when you're starting to think about things and you can't, and your recall is a problem, then that's a major sign that something's wrong. And the next thing is your work starts to suck. Like, you might have been the best person in the company, and then suddenly, no matter what you turn in, no matter how much you're working on it, it just keeps, like, you keep having errors in your code, you keep missing things that might have been obvious, it takes you longer to do those deployments. Everything that you do is just a little bit worse and keeps getting worse. And you just can't even with people. No matter what anyone says, everything starts grating on you just a little bit more, especially the people that are closest to you. You start pushing them away, and they're the ones that could help you the most, so you start isolating yourself. And then you stop taking care of yourself. Like, you start not showering, not eating breakfast, not eating dinner, maybe you don't cook anymore, you start just, like, if your entire house is covered with Pop-Tart wrappers and just protein shakes, that might be a problem. You're preoccupied with work. This is one where, when I was majorly burned out and my best friend was around for this one, every other word out of my mouth was Evernote. Like, no conversation I had did not have anything to do with Evernote. Like, so it was, oh, at Evernote we do this, at Evernote we do this, the thing that we're doing at Evernote. It's a sign if the only thing that is on your mind is work. And no matter what, nothing makes you happy. Like, especially things that used to make you happy, like chocolate. If somebody gives you chocolate and it's like, no, you're stressed if nothing can make you happy. And lastly, your health starts to suffer. Those heart palpitations, if they just won't go away, if you've started gaining weight and you're not even eating anything anymore except those Pop-Tarts and those protein shakes, and you start sweating all the time for no reason, and the temperature always seems to not be the right one, over long periods of time, serious chronic stress can create digestive issues, heart disease, depression, and obesity. And it's more than that. So you can end up with weight gain and loss, unexpected hair loss, heart palpitations, high blood pressure, mood swings, anxiety, depression, and unhealthy coping strategies. So if you start to feel that your life is normal the way that it is when you are stressed, then you'll start to create patterns in your life to get used to this new normal. If you think it's normal that you're not cooking all the time and that you don't have to shower every day and that you don't need to see everybody, then you start to push everybody away because you tell yourself in your head that it's okay that I don't have anybody, I don't need anybody, and then you further isolate yourself. So these are things that you need to start to recognize. And if this doesn't sound like you, but it's ringing a bell that somebody that you know might be falling under this pattern, that's just as important. Because if somebody that you're close to has dropped off the face of the planet recently, you might want to check in on them. Because if they've isolated themselves and they don't even realize it, then you can help them with their stress. So, how do you manage this? Or why should you? Like, your physical health will get better. That's the first thing that you'll notice. Like, when you start to actually pay attention to this, number one, you will actually, like, those heart palpitations will go away. You will either gain or lose weight, whichever was the opposite. So, like, I myself lose weight when I'm stressed, so I'll gain that weight back right away and be healthy again, a healthy weight. you'll not be tired anymore. You'll actually get the right amount of sleep. And amazingly, if you were sleeping 12 hours a night when you were stressed, you might only sleep 4 hours a night when you're not, because your body will have the right amount of sleep. It won't be tired. Your emotions will stabilize, and you won't be an annoying, angry, mean person that people don't want to be around. And your ability to focus will be improved. So you will be able to recall the things that are in your head, and you'll be great at pub quizzes again. So if you're in stress, if you're stuck in this cycle of stress, one of the problems that people say is, well, how am I going to get out of it? I have all this work to do. I'm stressed for a reason. Like, my boss is throwing all this work at me. I'm going through a divorce. My mother just died. I have so much on top of me. How could I possibly get out of this? Well, the first thing that you need to realize is the most important asset you have in your life is you. And if you don't take the time to pay attention to you, then you're not going to be there to get that work done, to think about the divorce, or to grieve for your mother, or to do any of that other stuff. If you aren't taking care of yourself, then there won't be a tomorrow for you to deal with. So yes, you have to get paid from work. You have to do all of those things. But if you tell your office that you need time to be more productive so that you will be a better worker for them, then 9 times out of 10, they will understand. Like, even the most heinous boss will understand that you may need 2 hours less per day so that you can actually put in higher quality work. You just have to make the business case that this 16-hour day I am putting in for you is producing 4 hours worth of work. If you give me 1 day off for me to go to a spa and retreat, then I will put in 16 hours worth of work in 4 hours. So what you need to think about is, do I have enough time right now to actually complete the tasks that I'm being given? And if you don't, then create an itinerary, create a job role worksheet. Find out exactly what you're doing and how long it takes you to do them. And if it's too much for one person, that's another thing that you need to talk to with your boss, or your spouse, or whoever. Because if you have too much on you, that's definitely a source of stress. And do you have a sense of autonomy in the work that you do? Because if autonomy is important to you and you don't have it, then you might need to leave your role. Are you receiving an overwhelming amount of negative criticism? Because that's not good for anyone, to receive constant negative criticism. It may be warranted in some cases. So you may have to understand why you're receiving it, if you are, and change that. And do you feel valued? Because if you do not feel valued, you should not be where you're at. And that goes for work, and that goes for relationships. If you do not feel valued, leave. The most important thing for me is, do I feel the work that I'm doing is fulfilling? That doesn't mean that you have to find everything you do about your company amazing, but do you find fulfillment and joy in the work that you do? And if you don't, and you used to, then you might have to understand how to get that joy back. So, how do you? First, chill out. Because a lot of us are stressed, and we just keep this cycle of stress going. So if you just figure out what the thing is that makes you chill out and do that for a little bit, then you'll find that your stress level goes down. So for me, for example, I read every day. Reading reduces my stress level. So no matter how stressed I was during the day, in the time that I read, it actually lowers my stress response. And then by the time I go to sleep, I'm not stressed, no matter how stressed I was during the day. Create a life outside of work. When I was at Evernote, I had no life outside of work at all, which is why I only spoke about Evernote, because I didn't have anything else. Thanks to this lovely lady who did the emotional intelligence workshop yesterday, I built a life and friendships and hobbies outside of work, and am here. Like, I credit so much to Christina. It's a wonderful thing. But I didn't have anything outside of work, and that was a major source of stress. Get enough sleep. I cannot stress enough how important sleep is. You need to sleep until you wake up, not until the alarm wakes you up. And there's no such thing as catching up on sleep. Sleep debt is a myth. Sleep until you wake up. Get organized. I am an incredibly unorganized person, so organize yourself in the way that works for you. But one of the first things that you do is, like, if you're stressed, like, you'll keep worrying that you're gonna miss things. And then when you worry that you're missing things, that's another source of stress. So the more organized you are, the more task lists that you have. Not task lists that are to do things, just where is this, where am I supposed to be, what am I supposed to do? Don't add things to this list, just organize what you're supposed to do. That will help you to de-stress. And then identify what you're doing. Identify the patterns that you have, and this will help you to notice when you are getting stressed. So if you notice that every time somebody in your office, every time they open their mouth to say something, you like cringe, that's a stressor. You may not know why they themselves are causing you stress, but you'll notice that you probably don't want to be around them, and therefore you'll avoid stress. Or you might want to have a conversation with them to remove that source of conflict. For me, one of my stressors was the notifications on my phone. Every time the buzzing noise went off, I would jump. Like, I literally would jump, and it was causing a major stress response in me. So I went on a tech-free retreat for 2 weeks, where I didn't, and when I came back, I put my phone on silent, and it's been on silent for the last 2 years. So I don't hear the notifications anymore, and it doesn't cause me a stress response even if I do. But it did, but I noticed that. And find the cause, because it isn't necessarily you. It's sometimes going to be an internal factor. It's sometimes going to be something that's in you causing it, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it really is that there is a major deadline coming up at work that you have no control over and you can't change. Sometimes it is your mother died, and that's causing stress on you, because that would cause stress on anyone. So if you identify what is causing stress, then you'll be better equipped to handle it. Uh-oh. So, unfortunately, this appears to have locked up, but I have one more slide anyway, and the last thing would be to, there we go, know when to leave. If you can't change your situation, if you can't make it better on your own, and there's nothing else you can do, then just know that it's okay to walk away. It's okay to just say, this situation isn't for me. Like, there's a values mismatch here. this coworker is my boss and they cause me stress every time and there's no way to break that conflict. This relationship isn't working out and there's no way to fix that. If the stress is constant and the situation isn't something you can fix, then you can fix it by leaving. So there's some resources that I have here that are very helpful if this rings a bell for anyone, if this has resonated with anyone here, whether it's you being stressed or you've recognized the signs in a coworker, a friend, a family member. So some apps here. So Headspace is a great app to help you meditate. Stop, Breathe, Think is another one that just helps you with that. And Sleepbot is an awesome alarm clock that is a mindfulness alarm clock. Do Nothing for 2 Minutes is a great site that does exactly that. You go to this website and it challenges you to do nothing on your computer for 2 minutes. And if you even move the mouse, you fail and you have to start again. Yeah, Noisely is a white space generator. Not white space, white noise generator. So it's great to have on in the background at work. And it works great in combination with noise canceling headsets. So like the two of those things together will completely block out any sound. Calm is another app that is similar. And if you are starting to feel like anxiety or stress and you don't have anybody to talk to and you don't have coaching at your company or access to that, 7 Cups of Tea, 7cups.com, is a place where there is anonymous therapists and even other people like you that you can go on to talk to for free. So it's just chat counseling for people. So if you just need someone to talk to about what's going on, because sometimes just venting is all you need to do and you'll feel better. So with that, I have about 3 minutes for questions. So if there's anyone that has a question, feel free to ask. Let's see. Thank you.
Hey, do you hear me? Okay, so how did this tech retreat work for you? Like, were you 2 weeks in a forest, or did you just not use technology for 2 weeks?
So I've gone, since that first one, I've gone on a couple of different tech-free retreats, but the first one, I went on a cruise ship to Alaska. And anyone that's ever been on a cruise knows that the internet on cruise ships is very expensive, so I chose not to purchase it. Then when I was in the ports, I just left my phone on the ship. One, I didn't have any pictures, which was interesting, because I used to take a lot of pictures, and now ever since then, I just don't take many pictures, which was a change in me. And then since then, like, there's some great retreats that you can go on. Actually, Matthew Renzi up there has a great retreats that are completely tech-free that you can talk to about mindfulness if this is interesting. But yeah, I'm not a nature person. I'm not go into the forest and find myself. So I look for places that have like catering and a bed to sleep in. But yeah, so for me, the first one was just a cruise ship with 5-star meals all day, and it was great. So.
It's on. Okay. That was awesome. I was just wondering, what are your thoughts on recognizing and asking for help with burnout when you're a woman? Because just speaking personally, I feel like sometimes I just have to kind of like suck it up because I still need to prove myself and like not be written off as the emotionally leaky kind of hysterical woman.
So yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, Christina was the one that had identified in me that I was burned out, and she was not at Evernote with me. I'd lost 35 pounds in a month. My hair was falling out. It turned out I had cancer that was like a golf ball sized tumor in my intestines that I had ignored for 2 years. by not going to the doctor because I was, as a woman, first one in the office, last one out. Spotlight was on me the whole time. There was no way I was going to the doctor because, like, I had to be in and do stuff. But she noticed that stuff was wrong with me, and then we got that taken care of. But you need to find a way. As soon as I mentioned that there was anything wrong to my HR department, they immediately were like, oh, okay, no problem. But you can't, you have to focus on you. You cannot say, because I'm a woman, because I'm a minority, you'll always find an excuse, but you have to focus on you first, because if you don't have you, you don't have anything. So, yeah. All right, thank you, everyone. I'm around for the rest of the conference, and I'm happy to speak with everyone. So,
thank you. Thank you to Heather.